Mindset is the ultimate life hack. Let me ask you a question. What does a barber, somebody who's making a refrigerator, and somebody who has a podcast have in common? They need to have a good mindset if they want to be good at the thing that they're doing. They need to know how to stay disciplined. They need to know how to stay consistent. They need to know how to make sure to have mental reframes in tough situations. I can keep going. If you were to give me the three most random people in professions, I bet you I can link them to mindset and tell you how without mindset, they will never be able to succeed. You're listening to Abundant Thinking. This is the podcast that takes your mindset from ordinary to extraordinary. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I want to talk about how if you have a good mindset, you are going to be super hard to stop. Mindset is the ultimate life hack, guys. Let's get into it. So going back to what I was talking about in the intro, if you want to succeed, you need to have a good mindset. If you want to be a plumber, you need to have a good mindset and work hard in your field. You need to stay disciplined. When things are getting tough, you need to have mental reframes. Whatever the thing is that you're doing, I wholeheartedly believe that you need a good mindset if you want to be good at it. You can't just show up every day and be lucky because you have to show up to begin with and you have to have a good attitude. And that's the hardest thing for people nowadays. They let their mindset completely deteriorate to the point where it's just a person who's showing up. They're lifeless, they're soulless in the thing that they're doing. The way that you see the world is controlled by your mindset. Every single person has a different reality that they're living in, as funny as that sounds. But the person that's across the street right now is thinking about something different, and he is affected by other externalities differently than you are. For example, if he has something negative in front of him, it might ruin his day. When if the same thing happened to you, it would be okay. A good example of this is I was talking to Dr. Sullivan, my sociology professor, on this podcast. Really good episode. You should check it out. And I was telling him how one time this girl spilled her drink on me. It was like I was in a coffee shop, and she was super apologetic, and the shirt was stained, whatever. But I was okay with it. I didn't really care. I wasn't okay with it, but I didn't care that it happened, and I didn't let it ruin my day. And I was telling him how a lot of people would be very upset and very angry, and they would say, "Oh, of course this thing happens to me, man. Oh, I'm the unluckiest guy in the world," and their whole day's ruined. They have class in 2 hours. They can't be happy anymore. How can they be happy when somebody spilled coffee on them? But for me, it wasn't a good feeling, obviously, but it's not going to ruin my day. And it was so powerful for me, looking back on it, realizing that the thing happened to me and the rest of the day remained unaffected. Like, this small part of the day doesn't dictate how the rest of your day is going to go. And to the same extent, if something bad happens to you, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad day. So many people think that they can't, so they don't. And then from that, they assume that since they can't, they don't want other people to, and they push these bad energy onto other people. They assume they can't, so they don't. Why would I start a podcast? It's never going to be good. So they don't start the podcast. They see their best friend started a podcast. Why are you starting a podcast? That's not going to work. They are trying to bring other people down to their level because they know that the thing that they really wanted to do and never did is the thing that somebody else is trying to do. I have a distaste for these people. Anybody that tries to bring someone down to get to their level just because they are envious of them or they're jealous because they never did the thing to begin with are people that I stay away from all the time. I never get close to it. Also, with this knowledge, every single person sees the world differently. So you have to determine, in what way do you see the world? Where are some faults of yours that you think you can fix? For me, I've been spending a lot of time thinking critically to myself and asking myself really hard questions, even to the point where I had a period where I was in a big rut because I was thinking too much. But you have to ask yourself the hard questions so you can get the good results, right? You have to ask yourself, where are my areas of faults? Oh, now that I think about it, my friends were telling me, sometimes I could be a little bit judgmental. And then when my brother, he went into the kitchen to show me his new pants that he was so excited about, I told him those would look stupid on him. Maybe this is something I should fix, right? So you really have to think. And when I was thinking about this episode and episodes that I want to do in the future, I was thinking of making an episode, maybe spoiler alert. I don't know if this is going to be a thing yet, but something along the lines of, in order to be wise and to be smart, you must think very deeply. Like, you're not going to be somebody, you can't understand the world unless you ask hard questions. You can't understand the world if you are just very, backseat. I'm just going to relax here and hope the world does everything for me. Like, you kind of have to, strap yourself in and you just got to go. I have spoken to very successful people about mindset. I have consumed information from very successful people about mindset, and something very interesting keeps popping up. they attribute their success to mindset. When I was first starting to really want to learn about things, one of the questions that I had was, okay, why are some people successful? Why is this person rich? What are the commonalities? I think this podcast is a good way for me to understand people when I have them on the show, to see how they think. But even besides the thinking part, how is this person rich? What does he do? What does this other person do? Maybe there's commonalities. What I realized is so many, if not all the people that I've spoken to, have attributed their success to their mindset and the way that they think. There's something very interesting that I was looking into called the RAS. It's a part of your brain. It's the reticular activating system. And listen to this, because this is very interesting. The RAS acts as a filter between your conscious and your unconscious, and it pushes forward the things that you think about. The RAS is a part of the brain that acts as a filter, determining which info from our senses reaches our conscious awareness and essentially shapes our mindset by prioritizing information that aligns with our current focus or goal. How interesting is that? What we actively think about influences what we perceive in our environment around us. A good example of this that I heard was two guys were walking on the street and they see, like, on a busy road, this torn downish building. It's not occupied, and the guy thinks, person one thinks, man, the economy is bad. Businesses are failing. The person two sees the little storefront and all the people and thinks, what business would thrive here? Because the second person trained their mind and their RAS to think about certain information, let's say he's an entrepreneur, he looks for the opportunities. So he sees that, oh, it's empty. What business would thrive here? He sees, oh, there's actually a lot of foot traffic here. This is good. This is so interesting because it does explain a little bit to why some people seem to get opportunities and others don't. For me, a lot of people ask, how did you have that guest on? Like, how did you are so lucky that you had that. But I see small opportunities because I look for them. And once you put yourself in enough of these opportunities, you get quote unquote lucky. What I mean by lucky is you get the chance that you've been waiting for. One of my friends asked me, you had a UFC fighter on? That's insane. But he looked at it from the lens of, you had a UFC fighter on, not you reached out to 100 UFC fighters and one of them responded. You guys understand what I'm saying? So on the surface, it's like, oh, you had a UFC fighter on, but you don't think about the 1% conversion rate that I have of getting UFC fighters on in general. Because eventually they're going to come. Like, if I reach out to enough, they're going to come on. And then I'm going to follow up with them, and it's going to keep going. And eventually it will happen. I wholeheartedly believe it. But the opportunities only come when you learn to focus on them and learn to prioritize them. This might be a reason why you guys might not be getting what you want in your life, is because you're not putting enough effort and focus into it. If you want to start a business, for example, or you want to start seeing opportunities in something that you are passionate about, start reading more about it. Start getting into it. So that way your brain is just thinking about it unconsciously. If you start to specialize in TVs, for example, right, is the first thing that came into my mind. Guess what? You start reading about TVs, you start watching YouTube videos. When you're walking around Target, you start to realize, oh my God, I didn't know they had this type of flat screen 84-inch TV that I saw on eBay, whatever. You guys get the point. But you start to see these things because you understand more about it. And once you understand more about it, you can see the opportunities come up. And you start thinking to yourself, when somebody's asking a question, what TV would look good there? How could I implement this thing to make money off of it? Oh, this TV's only going for $800. I saw it was posted $1,200 somewhere else. Maybe I'll flip it. Just these small nuances. For example, I was in a rut and I started writing to myself, okay, how can I get out of this rut? Just so in the future, when it happens, because I know it's going to happen, like, it's natural. How can I get out of it? So I made this list, stick to the fundamentals, and I wrote down, it's on my school community, all these things that I do. And now I can look back on it. I understand myself. Biggest thing, if you have a fixed mindset, ask yourself, why am I thinking like this? Am I scared? Maybe it's I'm not doing something I know I should be doing. And from there, you can go into a growth mindset. For somebody who does have a growth mindset, keep doing your thing, man. Ask yourself questions as well, because it's important to know about yourself. But there's so little people nowadays that have a mindset of trying to get better, wanting to get smarter, and trying to improve themselves, that it's rare for me to see. And I wish that more people were like that. Mindset is the ultimate life hack, guys. Ultimate. It gets you what you want if you work hard enough. And even if you don't, on the contrary, imagine you worked every single day in a business and you didn't get what you want. Wouldn't you want to know that you at least tried? That's one of the biggest things for me. I remember when I had some difficulties in MMA, I was thinking, I want to quit. Like, I want to quit. And I thought to myself, this can't be the moment I quit. Maybe one day I'll grow out of it naturally. And I can say to myself, oh, it was good while it lasted. It was nice. But I'll know that I stopped because something else happened, right? Maybe, I don't know, I had kids or something. I'm only 20 right now, guys, but I'm just saying. Um, yeah, like, maybe I had kids, but you can't quit when it feels the hardest because then you'll know. You guys get what I'm saying? And you want to try the thing. That's the most important. A lot of people have bad mindsets because they never tried. They never tried anything and they feel like once they try, it's going to be so difficult for them or they're going to fail. But failure is the start. Once you put yourself into the situation, you start to figure things out. If you want, I'm doing a lot of writing recently, interestingly enough, but I was reading about writing. As funny as that sounds, reading about writing. The most successful writers say you just start writing. You might have a little bit of an idea, but you're never going to have the full picture. It's never going to be there, but you must write in order to see the full picture. You can never be 100% prepared for something, and things are always subject to change. Nobody writes a book in the first try, obviously. They switch up the words, they switch up the paragraphs, they rewrite it, they see what it's missing, they reassess it, they have their friends read it, and then they do it again. So the first product is never going to be the end product, but the only way to get the end product is starting with the first product. Don't be the person that tells themselves they're going to do something and never do it. At least put yourself in the situation once and see if you like it or not, because then you can be honest with yourself. For example, I did paintballing one time and I did it and it was an experience and I didn't quit, but it wasn't for me. You guys get what I'm saying? And like snowboarding, same thing. And actually, snowboarding was pretty fun. I did it again, but but then you start to find things. Once you try more things, you start to find things that you actually enjoy a lot more. So paintballing was one of those things like, nah, I think I'm good. It was fun, but whatever. I'm not gonna do it anymore. Whatever. But then I found that, I started podcasting and I'm like, this is something I'm going to keep doing. I love it. I'm getting support from you guys and the people around me are telling me that they're enjoying my content. So it's just, you must try. And without the mindset, it's not going to work. Right? Back to my first example. You could be a plumber. You can have a podcast. You can run a business. You're not going to succeed in any of those things if you don't have a good mindset. For me, there are some days where it's hard for me to record an episode and maybe I don't want to record an episode, but I have to. It's the mindset. I don't have a choice. Like I have to post Tuesdays 8 a.m. Every single Tuesday 8 a.m. I'm posting. How are you going to be successful if you don't have a good mindset to do that in the first place? You can't have a good podcast without having podcast episodes. You can't be a good writer without having good writing pieces. But in order to be a good writer, you must have the writing pieces, and in order to have the writing pieces, you must start. That's it. I have an episode called Start the Thing. You guys should check it out. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.